Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Facebook Live with Bob and Keith. This is Bob. This is my best friend Keith, and here we go. We're going to answer some questions. One thing, just to kind of as an announcement, we've been working on our support section of our page. Kristen got a new theme for us, and we've been trying to update some of our articles. Please go ahead and take a look at that. So like last week, Charlie was asking for us to explain a little bit more about the Alarm 2. So we always had the video out there, but we've added some documentation to try to give some examples for the Alarm 2. And Keith is actually working on a startup, which is a little bit bigger project, but is going to just kind of walk through, okay, I got it together at homes, now what do I do? So look for that. So make sure that you go out to, it's on the main page, hit support, and there's a whole section for getting started, troubleshooting, link to our videos and those type of things. So definitely take a look at that.
Yeah, the thing that I'm working on, spending a lot of time doing a step-by-step, working through UGS and uploading your G-code file and homing your machine and zeroing the workpiece and defining terms, that kind of stuff. Some of you guys, this is so past where you are, so you don't even have to look unless, of course, you want to critique it and tell me all the things that I do wrong.
Right, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's just like working with Bob every day. So,
oh, that's just me. Maybe true, but it's me.
Yeah. So, if there are other issues you think we need to address, once again, we need to hear from you at the help desk at BobsCNC.com, and we take your suggestions seriously. They're a real benefit to us.
So one of the questions, again, Charlie was saying maybe we could help clarify is depth of cut, and then what's multiple passes. So our machine is not a production machine, so you cannot take out the whole 1.5 inch or ½ inch at a time at production speeds. But what you can do is do your deep cuts in multiple passes.
I was just going to say you might want to you might be making too big a pass right there, and explain that because you say it's not a production machine.
Okay.
Okay, so like what is the difference between an E3, E4 and a production machine? And why can't I mount a 3/4 inch piece of plywood and drop my bit 3/4 of an inch and just blast through that sucker at 200 inches a minute?
Well, you probably couldn't do that with a production machine, but what Keith is trying to say, I guess, or trying to get at is why do we have to cut slow? And it really comes down to deflection of the system, right? So we are going to recommend that you cut like at 1/16 of an inch deep at a time, maybe. And this is for doing cutouts. We talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago, and I'll explain in just a minute. But this is doing for cutouts. So you want to go maybe a 1/16 at a time. The good news is once you set what, if you want to cut an inch deep and you do it 1/16 at a time, you would have to cut 16 passes. The good news is the software does that for you. You tell it how far you want to cut, tell it how much you want to cut per pass, and it goes ahead and takes care of those. The one thing that doesn't cover, if you're doing a 3D carving, so you're really just taking the first pass and getting down to depth, and then doing step overs, now you can take out the whole step over depth, whether it's the ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch.
What is a step over depth?
It is where if you're cutting out a slot and now you're wanting to make the slot a little bit wider. So if you have an 1/8 of an inch bit and you cut down, let's say, a vertical line, now you just step over a 32nd of an inch and then go back over. So your tool load is really only taking out a 32nd inch of wood. So when you do 3D relief carving, that's basically what you're doing, is you're going back and forth, and every time you're stepping over a little bit to catch the next bit of work. So with that, I think it was Chase that says he runs at 100 inches a minute. Not on the very first pass, getting the big part of the wood out of the way, and then he's actually cutting from 0 to 3/4 of an inch deep. So yeah, obviously if you're doing step over, the parameters are different. Does that make sense? If not, somebody ask. What else we got, Kristen?
All right, so Debbie McClary said, I'm very behind in my reading and viewing, so I'm not sure if this has been previously talked about. But she's struggling with bits, their feed rates, number of passes, depth per pass, and she typically uses pine, poplar, cedar.
So we always recommend, and again, this is going to be conservative, but we're going to recommend 20 to 25 inches per minute for a feed rate. And we're going to say that your plunge rate, which is how far or how fast the Z goes up and down, because it plunges into the wood, we're going to say 8 to 10. And we're going to say a max depth per pass at about 0.08 inches or a couple millimeters, right? So that'll get you started. Now, once you get used to that, you're going to laugh at me and cheat those numbers. You're either going to cut deeper, you're going to cut faster, or like I said, if we're doing a step over cut, you can go a lot faster and a lot deeper. But that'll give you a good place to start. I said this last week too, but I love the way Mary says it. If you're going to go too slow, you're going to burn the bit. If you go too fast, you'll break the bit. So somewhere in between there that fits this. But if you start with the 20 to 25 inches per minute, you'll be okay. Type of bits was the next question. There's too many types of bits for me to explain, but let's just go through just a couple of them. So you have one that's just got a flute. It's a straight flute. It's just a solid knife cut, maybe one or two flutes on the bit. But let's say it's a single flute, so it just has one that's a straight cut. That really is pretty generic for cutting. It doesn't have any special purpose, but it's really good for just your general cutting. If you have cutting an outline, if you have a shape that you're trying to cut out, but you don't want any fuzz on the top, right? Then you're going to want a spiral down bit. A spiral down bit, actually, as it turns, it kind of cuts down. So you can imagine, instead of pulling the wood out, it's pushing all the wood chips in. So it makes a nice, clean edge. However, it pushes all of those chips into the cut, which can be troublesome for some. All right, so then there's a spiral up bit, which is really good if you're trying to cut all the way through and make the bottom not have fuzz, because it's got a spiral up cut. So it's going to make a clean edge on the bottom side, but not on the top side. They also make one that combines these for a certain thickness of wood. It's called a compression bit. It has a spiral up on the bottom, a spiral down on the top. It's a funky looking bit, but what it does is it will cut through the whole part of it without leaving any fuzz.
When we do the production on our spoil boards, which is MDF, the spiral bit or the compression bit works really great because it gives us a clean top and a clean bottom surface.
There's also other bits like the most common you would think would be like a V bit. This is really great for V carving, which really means that the bit is calculated, or the depth of the bit in the Z direction is calculated by the width of the line in the G code. So the good example for this would be to make a star. So a star, you want really sharp ends. So the bit's really at the surface when it's at the edge of the star, and then the bit just plunges deeper as it goes towards the center. And because it's a V bit, the lines get wider and you can make perfect stars. So that's one good application for V bits. However, engraving, just regular engraving, works great for V bits. Now, if you're going to do the full 3D relief carving, you might want to consider a bullnose bit or a roundover bit. These bits at the bottom actually have a roundover, and as you're doing your step over, they don't leave any sharp edges because it's rounded, so you get a smoother result. And of course, they come in different diameters, whether you want to start with a 1/4 inch all the way down to like a 32nd of an inch. And you may be able to go smaller than that. However, of course, your feed rates would have to change. So that's kind of a rough or a real quick overview of bits. There is some documentation out there that Kristen and some of our customers have put together on bits. But the best thing to do is, if you're going to cut acrylic, go type, do a Google search and say, what bit should I use for acrylic? There's bits that are designed to cut acrylic. Same thing for some different types of plastics. All right. Anything else we have, Kristen?
Scott Hamill wants to know what the size of the new machine is, or that you're working on, and do you have an estimated price tag on it?
We do not have a price tag because we're really in the design phase. So, just a little bit of history about this. For folks that, you build your own and you're just doing it one-off, it really is a pretty simple thing. You build it, if it doesn't work, you make a new piece. For a production type, run. It's not quite that simple. We actually started this about 1.5 years ago. We did kind of relax a little bit and think of what we were going to do to improve it, and so now we're back on it. But we are still in the design stage very much. We've actually built a gantry today. Got a few problems where I did not put
This is great. He told me I couldn't talk about this. That's great. Fine.
Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say
doesn't bother
something
me at all.
totally different.
No, we aren't
Okay.
going to talk about that at all.
Okay. Are you okay?
Nick, Scott, thank you. I appreciate
Relax.
that. All you got to do is ask
And this-
Bob a question, and
this is what
anything will come out.
And this is what our day is like all day long. Anyway, so we're in like the development stage.
Yeah.
We do not have a date that when we're going to have this ready. We do not have the price figured out. I mean, we're actually working on what we should include and put in the machine. As far as the size go, I think Kristen already looked at that. Again, this is not set in stone. This is just all what we're planning on now. So we're thinking about a 3 foot by 3 foot, a 4 foot by 4 foot, and then of course Charlie will want to make a 4 by 8. But so we'll probably make the part so that you can do a 4 foot by 8 foot. So that's kind of what we're looking at today. Again, you can always ask the help desk, email helpdesk@BobsCNC, and ask your questions, or you can get a hold of Kristen on Facebook. She's really the one that takes care of that for us. Or you can wait till next week. We'll see you at this time next week.
Thanks so much, guys.